Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the series of Fortunate Events podcast, brought to you by who? I've been asking for like 50 times now. It's still always me, Mimi Cherry. And I'm joined today by Princess Panocha, God's little princess. Should I just call you Clark?
Call me Clark. Call me Princess Panocha. Call me God's little princess. Call me God's little Panocha. I mean, whatever. You know, depending on the crowd.
Or
it's fine.
I could call you Panooch, which is what I've been calling Honey because her Panooch is very ready right now.
Oh my God. So that's like the funny thing is like all the dogs and me. Those who got that nickname was Panocha. The dogs and me in my family. So goes to show how my family thinks about me. But
I love it. Well, speaking of growing up and family, tell me about baby Panocha. Like, do you have other AKAs that were the original drag persona?
Well, I mean, baby Panocha, like, are we talking about like the woman or like the child?
You as like the person that you met along the way and created.
Right. Well, I mean, I've always gone by Clark. I've always been okay with that name. I've always
a la Willem.
Like a la Willem, exactly. Very much in that same kind of like frame of mind of like I'm an actor that does drag, and that's what I was for a very long time. Because I like went to theater school, and that's sort of where I found drag was like I went to theater school in Chicago. I like did not get along with the theater kids. And
what did you not like about the theater kids?
They didn't really care for me. I think I was a little too extra. I was like one of the only scholarship kids there. A lot of other kids were like paying full tuition, and so maybe there was this like socioeconomic kind of division.
Yeah.
But I was too much. I mean, I am still too much. And so they didn't really feel me. I didn't really feel them. It was a mutual respect of like, we don't really care for each other. Let's stay out of each other's way. So, and then I discovered how to obtain a fake ID. And then I discovered nightlife. And that's where I found I was like, oh, these are my people. And so at first I didn't look like my fake ID, so I started putting makeup on.
Yes. Oh, I should not give that advice, but there are no clubs to go to.
Right, there's no clubs to go to. But yeah, I mean, the fake ID that I got was given to me by some guy who was like Middle Eastern. We didn't look alike
at all.
So I had to wear makeup to at least like hide the fact that like I didn't look like my thing, and like they're not gonna make me wash my face. So I started doing makeup, and people were like, "What's your drag name?" And I've had very much like this like kind of whatever attitude. I was like, I am not a drag queen. I am just like, and I came up with all sorts of different words to avoid using the term drag queen. I was like, I'm a gender integrated performance artist. I am not a drag queen.
All right, Marina.
Right, exactly. And then I started referring to myself as a cross-dresser, just like a flat out like, drag queens do this like big thing, and I kind of like to scale it down, so I'm just a cross-dresser. And then I eventually, as I started like finding my like performance chops, I started actually being like, you know what, this drag thing is kind of fun. I'm gonna stick to this.
You started to actually feel the fantasy.
Actually feeling the fantasy.
Well, we're now in this, current COVID, because I don't know when post-COVID will be, but what do you miss the most of pre-COVID drag?
Yeah, well, I like to think myself as like a pretty powerful performer, But I think where my talents really lie is like my ability to like show people off stage a good time.
Yeah.
I love to throw parties. I love to entertain. I love to talk to people, to groups of people. I like to walk into a room and if like the vibe is low, like switching it. And like that's my favorite thing about doing drag is like
Yeah.
throwing events and giving people a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I miss like the whole like getting ready and really kind of getting like psyching yourself out, like really being like, okay, I'm in wig, I'm in makeup, like I am corseted, I'm in these heels that I don't know why I'm wearing these heels. Like, what am I doing to my feet? And I go out and I just turn on and I'm like, when I'm in drag, I'm able to stay on all night. And that, like, those kind of personal interactions and giving people a good time, that's really what I miss the most.
Mm. Well, at least you
And of
get to
course,
have
the backstage Kiki with the girls. I miss that.
Yes. Oh, in the tiniest of tiny rooms, but
Usually in a storage unit, usually in, you know, a fridge or, you know, something like a closet, but whatever. I will, you know, take cramming myself in a closet full of sweaty drag queens over like being stuck at home any day.
yeah, no, I've been in many a backstage because of my photography gigs. And again, it's like, doesn't matter the tiniest or randomest of space. If you have a drag queen in there, even if they're like undressing or dressing, it just feels that much more fabulous of a space.
Yeah. Absolutely. I miss that part so much. Yeah.
Aw. Well, now that we've transitioned into this digital world, you have participated in many a digital drag show. You have your rotating ones. When you think of now this new world of digital drag, what would be like a rose and a thorn? Like, what's the highlight and the like challenge
Yeah.
of the new world of digital drag?
Well, I'll start with the highlight is like, and I heard it in like an interview from some other drag race girl, and I forget which one and which show, but they kind of, you know, made it very like it like shined a light on something, and it was like, a lot of us, not all of us, but it's sort of digital drag has kind of even the playing field a tad bit more, not fully, but like it's kind of like, okay, we're all having to start from the ground up. You know, some of us, due to financial things, are going to have to work a little bit harder or don't have to work as hard. But, you know, we're all kind of on the same level. Everyone is new, or most people are new to this digital form of drag.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that it kind of like, no one really cares, you know, what you did on TV. Like, let's see what you can do in this digital drag form. Like, and how creative can you get? Because the cool thing about digital drag is like, it's fully like, people haven't even yet have found like the full potential of what we can do with digital drag. And so that of like this uncharted territory of like what we could potentially do is what excites me.
Yes.
What I don't like is like, I studied performance at the DePaul University in Chicago. And I like, you know, my whole like, my young adult life I've dedicated to like being a live performer.
Yeah.
I've like worked on like taking acting classes, taking improv classes, working on my personality, learning how to be a person that can like have conversation and like, you know, understand social cues and social graces. And I did all this to then like sit in front of a computer screen. And like I've done all these like performance classes to like now become a person that like sits in front of a computer. You know, like when I make a drag number for digital drag, it's probably like 30-45 minutes of like actual performing, and then like 4 or 5 hours of sitting in front of a computer and editing. And that's where I was like, hold up, wait, you know, not to use like a reality TV like trope, but I was like, I did not sign up for this.
I will say though, I will give you this, because all of your training, all of the work that you've done, I, as an audience member, see it in your art, even in the digital, because, Streamworks as a collective that you guys are, y'all have been churning out some amazing digital drag. And what I love is that you guys support each other in productions of things, but you can tell that each of you has your own voice and your own style. And so I totally love that. And speaking of you guys' projects together online, I really love the progression of the digital drag channel that you guys have. It's basically Cash Monet's channel, but to me, I see it as a collective channel because you have Pillows on Monday, you have Cash doing her video games, you have Girl Talk on Fridays. But I remember, I've been watching from the days of when you were teaching dance classes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and like I think you should like do that once a month or something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, here's the thing with that is, so I work for a dance company. That was something I was doing full time, and then right before COVID, I went part time to like try to become a freelance dance instructor, and then that ended up not happening. But I was doing that stuff, and the reason why I stopped, and I gotta kind of have to figure out how to like work my way around it, is like the teaching style that I was using is like a patented teaching style of my dance company.
Yeah.
And someone had snitched on me and told them Clark's teaching dance classes on the internet using like our style of teaching. So that's kind of why I had to stop things. But I do want to get back into the dance classes. I just kind of have to find my own style. So I've kind of been working on that while working on a bunch of other things.
Yay! Well, that's such an interesting, I would not have even known. Have you mentioned that's how that kind of like fizzled away, or did you just like quietly like put it in the corner?
Fizzle, because I already like was in some. I didn't want to like the last thing I wanted during like
start something
quarantine and like not sure like where I was gonna be financially at the time. I was like, the last thing I want is like any kind of lawsuit.
Okay.
Dude,
Yes.
So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna let it fizzle and I'll figure it out.
Well, good for you. So going back to the drag coven that you live in, because to me, when I see 3 or more drag queens in a house, it's a coven. But the place that you live in has queer history, and I would love for you to touch on that a little bit because I know that you want to keep some of that history alive.
Yeah. So almost 2 years ago, I was like in between housing. It's a common struggle for a lot of like performers and artists in the Bay because it's so expensive out here. So I was in between housing, looking for a place, couch surfing here and there, which kind of gets difficult when you're doing drag because you have weird hours. So you can really, anyway. So I had one friend who was a DJ, who was like, "Hey, I'm seeing that you're like couch surfing. You've crashed at my house a few times. Like, all my roommates just moved out and I need to like start over. Do you want to move into my place? Rent is really cheap." And he told me the price, which I was like, I can move in tomorrow. If it's that much, I can move in tomorrow. So he goes, yeah, totally. Everything's cool. I'm excited. Here's the catch. There's one thing. And I was like, the rent was $350 a month. So I was like, for $350 a month, girl, I don't care what it is. What is it? He goes, okay, well, we share the space with an old lady. She's an old lesbian, former dominatrix. She's like having a little bit of like in the like beginning stages of dementia, but totally manageable. You just need to help her with like the little things. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like, yeah. So I moved in, and this lady was like, she's still with us, is this like zany personality. Like even without the dementia, she is just like on another planet. And we instantly like connected. It was like kindred spirits.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we had been friends in a past life or something. Like there was just like an instant kind of connection. And so I became her like primary caretaker. And her name is Carol Thompson. She is from Norwich in England, moved here in the 70s, lived in Los Angeles with her husband. Her husband then passed away, got remarried, And then like 2 years into that marriage, realized I'm a lesbian. So I'm going to move to San Francisco. Moved to San Francisco sometime in the 80s. 1989 earthquake happened. She lost her house, moved into the house that I'm currently living in. And that's when she got into being a dominatrix. And she turned this entire space that we live in into a dungeon, a dominatrix dungeon. And her specialty, her like thing that men came to do specifically was like being emasculated,
Yes.
being forced to cross-dress and being like humiliated, which is like, that is, I was like, that is my tea right there. Like, I love that. So when I would come out of my bedroom, like I would go into my bedroom looking one way and come out a couple hours later looking this way, and it would just bright up her life. She was just like, oh my God. And when I found out what her specialty was, I was like, oh, like this is like beyond just like hitting some glitter in the living room. Like this is like bringing you back to your glory days. And so, you know, it was nice. And of course she like, every now and then I'd be like, Carol, like time for breakfast. And she'd look at me and she'd be like, call me mistress. And I'm like, oh, okay, mistress. You know, a lot of that, and yeah, I would like walk through the house and like she would like smack my ass and you let it happen. She's an 80-year-old woman. Like I was like, you know what? You can smack my ass all you want, girl. But yeah, so it was from 19. It actually, so I kind of have my timeline messed up, but before it became a dungeon, it was actually at-home hospice. It was,
I remember that.
And so she just took in as many men that were dying of AIDS in and took care of them, you know, until they passed, gave them comfort, gave them dignity before they, you know, eventually passed. And so that spirit also lives on. There used to be a garden in the back that, due to dementia and time and things, sort of deteriorated. But there's a sign there that was like covered by dust. It was very like out of a movie, like you like rub the dust and it like there's a placard and it said like this garden is dedicated to those who have passed of AIDS. And I was like, wait a second, why is this like under rubble and like dust? So brought it out, me, Mary, Cash, we fixed the garden. And now like, I mean, I feel like the natural movement of things was for this house to be taken over by drag queens. And so we dedicated it's a very old house. So there's a bathroom with like a shower in the sink. And then the next room is where the toilet is. And so that room we painted like Pepto-Bismol pink. And then
on Twitch.
Right, yes. And we covered the walls with photos that I still have of her in her like dominatrix gear. And then I still have some of her like actual gear that she used, and like a paddle and things like that. And so we nailed them to like right above the door. So it looks like a miniature museum inside our bathroom.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see that someday.
Yeah, you definitely have to come over when you can, because it is really cool. And so we're also in the Soma neighborhood on Folsom Street. Typically right now things would be getting really crazy because we'd be setting up for Folsom Street Fair, which is like where I live is right in the middle of the entire street fair where the street fair would be held. And so last year was like so crazy, and it's like to her it was a holiday. She was like, she didn't know when Christmas was, you know, with the dementia, she didn't know what Thanksgiving was, but she always knew when Folsom Street Fair was.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, she was ready. She would wake me up and be like, today's the day. And it was cute. She had her little like her faux leather jacket with her like grandma like pleather leggings on.
She's like the Folsom version of the groundhog that comes out to say if like winter extends or not.
Exactly. Right. And she's not going to be, this is the first Folsom she won't be at. And this will be the first Folsom for a lot of people. That won't be happening. And of course, it's when she's like stuck at home. So there's something in the air, there's some kind of energy thing where it's like, okay, Carol can't make it to Folsom this year, so no one's going to Folsom this year.
Nobody gets Folsom.
Exactly.
No Folsom for you. No Folsom for you. Stay home, dirty boys.
Exactly. Oh my god. And she like, oh god, she was a lesbian though. So like and as she got older and as the dementia was sort of kind of taking over, she lost her sight, not fully, but she was old. And then also she kind of was just generally confused. So she actually, gender had become this like construct that like just didn't exist anymore, which was kind of sickening.
She had broken it apart.
Yeah, fully broken apart. So it was always just like anytime someone walked in, she would like ask, like, where we would say these days, like, what are your pronouns? She would kind of ask, maybe not in the most
politically correct.
Be like, are you a boy or a girl? And I'd be like, you know what? If only people ask questions like that more often. What are your pronouns? Who, like, what, like, so she was like, she never knew what people's gender was. And part of it was due to dementia, but it kind of like, it set this tone in the house of being like, yeah, you can come in here and no matter how you identify, we will respect it and like, live your fantasy with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine, a room where a drag queen and a butch lesbian is like, yeah, who is the boy? Who is the girl? Mm-hmm. We're all everything.
We're all everything. Oh my God. And she was so funny. She had a boob job earlier in life and she had a tendency to flash people. And I have never seen like an old person with fake boobs, like what aging boobs look like while the implants are still in there. And let me tell you, it's a very interesting sight. So never thought I was gonna see like old women tits like that were like dropping but also stayed in place all at the same time. I never thought I was gonna see that, but I saw it like every other day for like a year.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's such a left to my next topic, but I wanted to touch on, I love how Girl Talk went from, and I think it kind of interweaves. I think, knowing your history, your queer history, you wanting to acknowledge it, keep it alive, keep it respected. I think it makes sense why what was a silly little show has now become a political platform, and I'm so proud of you all for that. Okay. And, you're hosting, like legit people that are running for things, and you guys have interesting conversations with them, ask them hard questions, and so what are you most excited about to continue having your platform be a space like that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like it started off as this thing of like, okay, we need to fill our day with something, and Cash's kind of school of thought was like, just keep on putting out content and something will eventually stick. Just keep on putting it out, just like constantly. So we're like, okay, we got to think of something. Me and Mary were like, let's just like get ready in front of camera and talk shit. And like, it then sort of developed into what it is now.
Yeah.
And so what I'm excited for it to become is like, I definitely have been like listening to more podcasts and more talk shows and things like that. And I'm looking forward to finding a little bit more structure, having like something that like maybe has more like segments, things that are actually given like an allotted amount of time, not just kind of this like free range thing, which is also kind of fun too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I want to get more politicians. I want to get potentially people who like maybe we don't see eye to eye with, because right now it's a lot of everyone kind of agreeing with each other, which is great and I think is healthy and important.
But sometimes it starts to feel a little circle jerky.
It's a little masturbatory. It's like we all agree with each other. We're all sickening. That's great.
Where's the poppers?
Where are the poppers? Exactly. And so I'm like, I'm wanting to kind of take it into, I would love to interview someone who doesn't see eye to eye with us on things, and like not even necessarily having them like persuading them to like come to our side, but just seeing like where their side is coming from. So I would love to do things more like that.
We need more of that right now, more than ever.
We need more people just like having conversation, because I finally deleted my Facebook. I think Facebook is kind of low-key the devil. And because the reason I deleted my Facebook, because like, unlike I think a lot of the other apps, they all have their problems too, but I think Facebook, I mean, like, you can kind of attribute Facebook to why Trump is in office. Like, they played a tiny part, tiny kind of big part. And so I was just like, and like having to just be around people who like can just feel so emboldened to say like really awful things, I had to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to have interviews with people like that where it's in person, because what we're lacking right now are these face-to-face communication. Because like, it's easy to type "fuck you, bitch." Sorry, I don't know if I'm about to say that, but
yeah, no, fuck her, bitch.
yeah, fuck a bitch. You know, it's really easy to say like "fuck you" and everything you stand for and everything you believe in, like on when it's a, you know, on computer, on a, you know, on a keyboard. But when we're having conversations, you see the person, you see the life that exists inside the person, and maybe you're able to understand like, oh, this is why they act this way, and this is why they feel this way. So I do want to bring in people who don't necessarily agree with everything that we say.
Yeah. No, definitely need more of that. Yeah, it's if we are in an interesting time, and yeah, you know, our choices have a lot of repercussions right now. You know, Unfortunate Rants with Maddie. You know, we have kind of like, that's the show. This one is a little more loose. Like, I tend to have an outline, but it's a little bit more loosey goosey. But with Fortunate Rants, like, now we joke that it's a train that stops at stations, and so we have like our allegedly station, we have our entertainment section, we have what started as The World is Burning, but now it's like What in the World. And whenever these stories come out of just, you know, the attacks on the post office, or, you know, et cetera, I always say, I'm not telling you who to vote for, but this year, right now, and especially after our dear Ruth crossed over.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was reading, actually, I should have pulled it up to quote it correctly, but I was seeing lots of messages that in the Jewish faith, there's very specific placement of people when they cross over right before the new year, this is the Jewish New Year. They basically, it's kind of like, if I'm quoting it loosely, they're kind of like energy warrior spirits that like create change, or like they're exalted in a very specific way. So like, even the rest in power is like not even like necessarily applicable for this situation. It's like warrior something. Oh, I should have pulled it up. I'll try to pull it up.
I think I know what you're talking about. I saw that. I think I saw something like that.
Yeah. And I was talking to my mom this morning, and, you know, I have very, you know, frank conversations with her that I worry about the apathy. I worry about, you know, that Biden is just now trying to get around to talk to us, talk about Despacito. Oh, I put on Twitter, I was like,
oh my God, that Despacito.
I was like, can somebody put "I don't need a sugar daddy, I never needed a sugar daddy" over this?
Also, if you're really trying to reach out to the Latin community, like, dude, girl, Despacito, really, of all of those songs, like, come on, get me some like La Puerta Negra or something.
Hold on. I got something for you.
That is so awkward.
Put La India in there, something.
We're kind of all like, you know, voting for him in hopes that, you know, Kamala kind of just like, okay, I got this.
Steers the boat.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's that whole thing. It's hard. It's hard. It's like, right, we're stuck in this ongoing trend of like having to choose between getting shot in the heart or shot in the leg. Like, which one do you want? Neither of them are great, but one might be worse than the other, but they both suck at the end. And
welcome to the apocalypse.
Welcome to the apocalypse. Yeah. So it's just like, you know, I mean, speaking of Girl Talk, we had, you know, a politician that we interviewed on there who we were really excited about. We did, you know, publicly endorse him. And there was information that had then been released saying like, he has done some things that were inappropriate. He has made women in the workplace feel inferior and feel like it wasn't a healthy workspace.
Shahid. I'm so torn because, you know, he really truly does maybe kind of sort of have a chance because these career decades long people talking about the ice cream that they got in their freezer when we go into lockdown, and say that the Green New Deal is something us kids shouldn't even be dreaming about, you know.
Right. It's a place of privilege, wanting that something is like, it's so frustrating. And
It
so,
frustrates me. Yeah. I was actually, I'm so glad that you brought that up. I was so curious and I was going to ask Mary about it because I know that she very publicly denounced him. I saw that. And now you're saying it here. Yeah. Like, how did that feel? Because, here you go kind of like going to bat for somebody and then this stuff comes out of them because I just like, sometimes like we obviously don't want shitty people in this world. We don't want people abusing power. But, like also sometimes like where do we maybe hold their feet to the fire, but like the fight that they're fighting is
right.
slightly bigger.
Well, and that's where I struggle because, like, so when all that information was released, I sort of, Mary, of the two of us, when it comes to girl talk, she is, I'm not saying Mary is super diplomatic, but between the two of us, Mary is definitely the most like diplomatic one. And so she kind of was able, she like put some thought into it and was like, okay, I'm going to release a statement saying like this, and this. And I actually, to be completely honest, my immediate reaction was to get in the defense. Because I was being sent the articles about Shahid by people who I was getting in constant arguments with, like our support or lack of support towards Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
So it was these people, like, so when I first found out, it came from this place of like, oh, you're trying to get me, like you're trying to be like, gotcha, girl. And so I was in the defense, and I was like, and I started saying things that kind of was like pushing the boundaries. I did a lot of like, my first reaction was sort of like, okay, like you are the very people that are telling me like vote for Biden no matter what, wherein he has all these things, accusations against him, and everyone's kind of like, we'll deal with it when he's in office. Mm-hmm. Like we'll deal with it when Trump's out of office. Mm-hmm. And Nancy Pelosi, who has allowed a lot of the things that Trump has gotten away with, she has passed so many things that Trump has gone away with. That same person, right? Like essentially not that far away from like how the evil that is Trump, You're telling me now that I can't vote for this man, who is a, raised Muslim man of color, right? You're telling me I need to vote for this old white man no matter what, regardless of these accusations. But this other guy, I have to denounce and I have to disown.
Throw away, yeah.
Because of something that isn't even as bad. And I'm not saying like, there has to be like, well, his sexual assault is not as bad as his sexual assault. I don't want to say that, but I'm saying like the accusations that are made by Joe Biden versus the accusations that are made about Shahid Buttar, they're different. They're completely different. And am I saying that what these people are saying about Shahid is like wrong or no? I'm saying like, absolutely, we need to look into that. I think Shahid responded to it really well. Mm-hmm. There are some things that I'm sort of like iffy about Shahid, but like, it's this sort of weird, like double standard where it's like, okay, vote for this guy no matter what, but this other guy who like could essentially replace someone who is also a problem, is like, I'm being told like, oh, well, no, fuck this guy because of something that was very similar to the person that you're telling me I must vote for.
Exactly.
So that's a struggle.
Yeah.
And so I dealt with that a little bit differently. I did get in a few arguments with people.
Yeah.
I also have a tendency to kind of, I also like to explore like the racial sort of relationship that is at hand, and the lady that first was saying things, I'm not saying that she's lying. I'm not saying that she's untruthful. I'm all about believing the victim, and that's really important. But also, we are in a country where there are white women who have a history of falsely accusing men of color for doing things. And so, like, part of me was like, yes, believe the victim, absolutely, no matter what. But the same part of me was like, but also we have to recount the history of this country and the things that white women have done. Like, I mean, Emmett Till, like, there are very famous stories where, like, white women have accused a man of color, usually black men, but other men of color, of doing things, and it has costed their lives.
Yeah.
So
we live in a society where they much quicker will forgive the white man for something, and he actually somehow gets sometimes an even better position out of it versus the brown man who many times did less and gets punished worse.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where I was struggling, you know.
Yeah.
And so as like as an entity that is girl talk, right? Like, it was kind of, I had to deal with, like, I'm representing something, and also I have my own personal views, and like having to find that like happy medium. And so, you know, I did release something saying, like, I'm not going to publicly endorse him. He's still getting my vote.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like, is it ideal? No, but also we have to realize that, like, people are complex.
Yeah.
And that we're not, you know, it's very risky territory to, like, you know, just like bring someone into this like kind of like this kind of put them on a pedestal where they're like unreachable and like nothing they do is wrong. We have to acknowledge that people are people,
or that if they do something wrong, suddenly, you know, kill, you know, murder the monster.
You know, and he even said, I'm very open to having a third party, someone who is not in my interest, someone who's not in the other person's interest, to put an investigation into these claims.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm very open to that. You know, and that's more than we can get from a lot of these politicians who are kind of just being like, they're lying. They're doing this to press. They're doing this to get at me. And, you know, he was like, yeah, let's look into it. And, like, if that is the case, I deeply apologize. And, like, you know, that's the bare minimum, which we're not getting, but, you know, it's something.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this a lot. The theme of 2020 has been many things, but one thing for me, it's been thank God for Cash Monet. And when Cash moved in and then quarantine was announced, and she was like, oh yeah, I have like the best lights that you can get. I have all this great equipment. I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I don't have to be out of pocket for any of this stuff. So yeah, the theme of 2020 for me, thank God for Cash Monet.
It's good to be part of a drag coven.
It is really good. And especially to have a drag sister like Cash, who was like, oh, everything has to be moved to the internet. Something I've been doing. Great. Like, we're set up. And I was like, yeah.
So I figured we could play a quick little game of Kiki, Kai, Pill, because we don't want to kill anybody around here.
So Kiki, Kai, what?
Pill, because we don't want to kill anybody. Okay. We just give them a nice little sleeping pill.
So they can't join the party.
Exactly. So winners edition, Bianca Del Rio, Bob the Drag Queen, or Jada Essence Hall?
Fuck, Mary, or Kiki, Kai, Pill.
I'm
gonna pill Bianca Del Rio because once I pill her, she's asleep. I'll get her wallet. She's got like that. She's that like $1 million queen, right? She's that $1 million drag race queen. Got her credit card, and I'll just order some things. So pill Bianca Del Rio. Also, like, who doesn't want to pill like the old racist like viejo?
I mean, I didn't want to say it was a gimme, but
I would marry Bob. I really like I could actually see myself living with Bob. Well, I listen to a lot of Bob's perspective on things. We share a lot of similar views. So Bob.
Okay.
And then
Bob.
oh my God. And then yeah, I would Kai with Jada Essence Hall. She is fucking gorgeous. In and out of drag. We can
Yes.
kai like for real, like in drag, because I love me some kai. But we can also wash it all off and have a good time there too.
Yes. Vegas edition.
Hmm.
Cameron Michaels, Vanessa Van Mateo, or Derek Barry. And when I say Vegas, I mean as in the Vegas Review
Hmm.
drag race show.
It's been like a drag race. What is it? Real Housewives of Drag Race.
No, I call it Love and Hip Pads.
Love and Hip Pads. Oh my god, I love that. Love and Hip Pads. That's exactly what it is. I would say Pill Derek Barry.
Cameron or Vanessa? Or the other two?
Okay, wait. Wait a second. Derek Barry's drama, but I kind of live for the drama. Okay, no, I'll pill her. Because then I don't want to deal with the other two. What are her
Nebraska and the other one.
I don't want to deal with those other two. Also, I gotta share that bed. You see that episode where they all climbed into bed together? I'm like, there's no room for me. Okay, I'll sleep on the couch. So pill Derek, and then I would kai with Cameron.
Oh,
I know Cameron I'm fully caught up. I've been watching the whole show. I know Cameron like is trying to like get these crazy bottoms to like settle down with him.
he trying to cuff a bottom.
Trying to cuff a bottom. That's what I call that show is anytime Cameron Michaels is on is like I was like a memoir or the memoirs of a muscular bricky drag queen who can't secure a greedy bottom, a tale as old as time. A horny drag queen who can't get a bottom to settle down with them. Oh, I've heard that story a lot. So I would kai with Cameron, and then I would Kiki marry
Vanessa.
Yeah, I like a big personality.
Vegas continued. Asia O'Hara, Naomi Smalls, and Evie Oddly.
Okay, I would pill Asia. I'm so sorry. I love Asia, but that on the show, she's so like. I know there's some things, maybe some therapy is needed, but she is a little childish. I'm like, oh, you're gonna get up and leave the dressing room because like you didn't like what someone had to say. Like, oh, girl, grow up. So I'm gonna have to pill her. And then I actually have hung out and have had a good time with Naomi Smalls. I would marry Naomi. Fully marry Kiki, marry Naomi. I think that person is so chill and so cool and so nice and like lives for like anyone who does drag. And then I would kai with Evie Oddly because I know Evie Oddly is like packing. I know you just can look at them. And you're like, there's something going on back there. So
well, wasn't there the whole storyline that he fully painted himself pink, even down to the dog, for the drag race? The whatchamacallit? The jellyfish.
The jellyfish, the runway. Yeah.
Okay, Kiki, Kai Pill, Oaklash edition.
Oh, here we
Mama
go.
Celeste, Beatrix Lahane, or Nikki Jizz?
Oh, okay. I would Kiki marry Nikki Jizz. Nikki Jizz is my sister. I could absolutely marry that person. Like, I love Nikki Jizz. Like, don't tell her I said that, but I love her so much. So
I kind of fell in love with Nikki watching her help out backstage Sunday of Oaklash. Like, it was like regular version Nikki just like busting his ass helping. And I was like, oh my God, you're a person.
Oh, she's a person. She's not just this like come hungry goblin. She is this like hoe with a heart. And I love Nikki Jizz. And like, I would say her and Mary are like my two like drag, like they're all my sisters, but like those are like my sisters. You're not supposed to like have favorite sisters, but those two are my favorite sisters. And then I would kill Celeste.
So then you're kai-kaiing with Beatrix.
And I'm kai-kaiing with Beatrix. Yeah, 'cause I
You
know
just wanted to kill
I
Mama.
just need to kill Mama Celeste. So really quickly, this is the third year that they've done Oaklash, and
Baby
every
number 3.
Mama Celeste, more so than Beatrix for whatever reason, Mama Celeste gets dragged. Someone's not happy. Someone is pissed. Someone either, how dare you think you can put on this drag festival by yourself? Why didn't you book me for this? Why didn't you book me for that? And me and Mama Celeste, we're friends. We love each other. We're sisters. But I always take that opportunity to be like, oh, everyone's coming for Mama Celeste? Me too. Let me jump on this bandwagon and be like, yeah, everyone, fuck Mama Celeste. Fuck that bitch. Like, any opportunity I get to cyberbully that bitch.
I love it because like Mama is like you're all my friends, but like I actually see Mama in real life. And so I just like seeing my poor friend get dragged, that like I want to like jump in and like stab her too, but I'm like, no, I love Mama.
Well, and the thing that makes me laugh is like, this is the thing. Everyone's gonna get over it, right? And so I'm like, that's where I'm like, I'm gonna kind of dig the knife in a little bit more. I'm like, yeah, bitch, like, fuck you.
So our final category in Kiki, Kai Pill, Twitch edition. Lisa Frankenstein, Bitch Puddin', or Deer?
I don't know Deer.
Okay.
I mean, I know Deer, but I don't know Deer personally. So Pill. Pill Deer. I would marry Kiki with Lisa. She could impersonate Liza for me for the rest of my life, and I'll be fully entertained. And then I will kai with Meatball.
Bitch.
Meatball, bitch. I'll kai with bitch.
Ooh, somebody wants some meatballs.
I'm down for Meatball. But bitch too. Bitch got a big butt. She's a big ass. Yeah.
Big old booty. Well, that's been Kiki Kai Pill.
Wow, I made it out. Alive.
Well, now you have one more. This is going to be the speed round. It's literally, I've been carrying this card around for almost 2 years. It's always the same questions. And if it's not a drag performer, I adapt it to the kind of performance that they do. So, speed round. How long does it take you to get into the gig/look?
Anywhere between an hour and a half and 3 hours, depending on what the gig is, how much they're paying.
Nice. Tips for drag fans.
Tips for drag fans. Don't ask us to do your makeup for you if you're not actually offering to pay. And tip us. It doesn't have to be a large amount of money. Just tip us.
Yes, tip the dolls. Tips for baby queens.
Don't get caught up in the whole branding yourself in the beginning. I know RuPaul's Drag Race told you that you got to find your brand and whatever. No. Play with drag, have a good time, and don't be a wet blanket. Everyone's going to see a drag queen to have a good time. Don't be the person to like shit on the good time.
Oh my God, we're going to do a quick little detour. I was having a conversation with somebody about if we were imagining Heidi in Closet going back for All Stars, that her entrance should be, "Hi, I'm Heidi and I'm still in the closet. Thanks, mother." Like, why was she trying to change her name so much? Let her be her thing.
Yeah, also, why is Heidi in Closet getting shit on for her name? But like Calorie Kardashian Williams, everyone was just okay with that.
Thank you. Okay, back to the speed round. Fave drag race queen.
Oh, favorite drag race queen ever? Tammy Brown.
Favorite non-drag race queen?
Christine.
Nice. Best drag tip for the everyday woman?
Best drag tip? Concealer.
Oh, yes. Yes. Even now, through all this digital stuff that I'm not doing like the full beat I used to, concealer is always a part of it. Favorite song to lip sync to?
I do my favorite Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Nice. And the best tip/gift you've gotten from a fan?
Large bills. A large bill. Whenever a fan tips you that $100 bill, you're like, oh, I'm gonna give you
Thank
some attention
you.
tonight.
Look at this, Panooch. You've made it to the end of the show. Give us some links. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs or the social medias?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I am Princess_Panocha. Princess_Panocha. That's it.
Is there somebody in the background saying bye?
Oh yeah, Sissy's heading to the beach.
Oh, okay. I was like, is somebody forcing you off? Like, okay, get off already.
Bye.
Well, everybody, that's where you can find God's Little Princess, aka Princess Panocha. You can always find me on Twitter, Mimi Cherry, and if you want to find me on Instagram, add an IG to it, and it'll be Mimi Cherry IG. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Yay! And you look gorgeous, darling.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Mimi Cherry presents a series of fortunate events. Fortunate events.